Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ontario receives 200,000 new people each and every year. More than 100,000 of them will settle in the GTA. Using current averages regarding Canadian home ownership, average prices of a family home in the GTA, this represents essentially a $300 billion addition to our economy, although spaced over a lifetime. But each and every year, we have this 200,000 coming with pressure to take more. With a solid economy, stable political environment, excellent infrastructure, supporting services, and with 20% of the world's fresh water supply on our shores, migration to Ontario, which started 150 years ago, is not likely to slow down in our lifetime. This explosive growth puts a great deal of pressure on our infrastructure. In order to accommodate 200,000 new people every year, we need to build a new Kitchener-Waterloo every 2 years, a new Hamilton every 3 years, a new Ottawa every 4 years. So you have to stop and ask yourself, how much opportunity is this? So starting with the easier part, the traditional hard infrastructure, I took a look at new cities being built from scratch around the world. The list goes like this. King Abdullah City, Saudi Arabia, $80 billion, new home to 2 million people, 1 million new jobs. Treasure Island, San Francisco Bay, $6 billion, 8,000 homes, experiment with ecocentric community. Songdo, South Korea, $40 billion, 80,000 apartments, 60 million square feet of office space. Their theme is, we will change the face of business. Waterfront city Dubai, $82 billion, double the population and the shoreline of the country, 1 million new jobs. Smaller footprint, Masdar City, Abu Dhabi, $20 billion, no cars. 100% renewable energy, near zero waste, 82% recycled water. Now, given here in Toronto, we're spending over $3 billion just to repair the Gardner. As your resident visionary, I'm going to estimate the opportunity for our new city and community building to start at $40 billion a year. Unlike the other sites we reviewed, Ontario, our opportunity is not a one-shot deal. We have a chance to deliver our own version of the future city of 200,000 each and every year. So how do we transform in our perspective and in reality an annual $40 billion expense into a revenue-producing industry with explosive growth? 3 steps. It is a 7-minute presentation. Attract $40 billion of investment each and every year. 2 parts to that. First, our city infrastructure has to be more marketable and more desirable to the largest global asset management firms in the world than their next opportunity. But the second part is the hard part, and that's where we need to harness all of our energies, and that's to produce a return that is acceptable, that maintains our position and the $40 billion a year, but doesn't just become a revenue hole. It actually produces revenue, doesn't take up revenue and create future debt. Now, fortunately for us, part 1, by fraudulently representing U.S. real estate investments over a long period of time and almost bankrupting the world, the U.S. financial services sector and their overseers in the SEC have already done most of the heavy lifting for us, leaving city infrastructure, national infrastructure, as the new darling for these global asset management companies. So assuming getting the money is now relatively easier, how do we go about producing a return on that investment? Clearly, we're still at the front end of the era of public-private enterprise, and we need to get this right quickly. Step 2, I'll come back to the solutions at the end. Create a powerful united front of intergovernmental cooperation around the city and community building industry. The first part is to create a spotlight on infrastructure so that budgets are struck to begin to address the hard infrastructure requirements. When you take a look at current status, it's extremely encouraging. Federally, Justin Trudeau shared plans for the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, seeding it initially with $180 billion, but that is for the country. But it is the central pillar to Canada's Investment in Canada plan. He's also met with BlackRock, the largest asset management firm in the world. Our provincial government has demonstrated a laser focus on infrastructure. I'm just going to go through the program. Since 2005, Build Ontario, $30 billion over 5 years. 2011, Building Together, $35 billion over 3. 2014, Building Opportunity, Securing Our Future, $160 billion over 12 years. At the municipal level, by law, we have to balance the books at the end of each and every fiscal year. So entertaining thoughts of large multi-billion-dollar infrastructure renewal projects or new projects is just not on the agenda. They have to work with the provincial government first, the federal government second, and obviously with the corporate side of the country and any other supporters. I think in the current mayor, we have a major team player who's worked hard and tirelessly at doing just that. And we're in good position at the municipal level. Time now for step 3. If, like me, you're a little older, and this were a 1960s Walt Disney show, Walt would tell you that tonight's show is coming to you from all 4 lands: Frontierland, Tomorrowland, Adventureland, and as a visionary, Fantasyland. And that is because Ontario, and especially the GTA, is the acknowledged multicultural epicenter of the world, pronounced last year by no less an authority than the BBC. 51% of the GTA's population is from outside of Canada. 2 out of every 3 Ontario students have parents born outside of Canada. So mission impossible. With our future resting in the hands of this new young generation, how do we quickly craft a harmonious, caring community that will globally be competitive in every regard and continue to be characterized by traditional Canadian values like honesty, humility, strength, and tolerance? There are no models to follow. We're it. So for starters, we need to accelerate something that we've been pretty good at to date and get better quickly. And that is creation of an equal opportunity environment for our young people, and then move out from there into the workplace. What measuring systems exist to establish current state and set targets with? For now, the closest credible indicators I found were PISA results as measured and published by the OECD. Now, PISA is the Performance of International Students Assessment. It measures the performance of 15-year-old students consistently in math, in reading, and one other area, science. Now, the OECD is another acronym, and it stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It's manned, funded, and executed from 35 democracies around the world. Now, since their inception, PISA results have been dominated by a city-state like Singapore and the Scandinavian countries. Singapore is a city-state that linked their education programs to their national strategy since their independence in 1967. This year, for the first time, Canada scored in the top 10 across all 3 categories. Further, within 3 years of arriving, the children of new migrants have scores as high as the rest of their schoolmates. The variance in our scores between advantaged and disadvantaged students is perhaps most telling. For Canada, the variance is 9%. By comparison, the next best, Singapore, is 17, followed by France with 20. When Andreas Schleicher, OECD's education director, was questioned on how Canada has managed to leapfrog to excellence. Paraphrasing his words, he said, "Canada's big uniting theme is equity. There's a strong sense of fairness and equal access, and this is seen in the high academic performance." So all you education professionals out there, take a bow, take a moment to celebrate. But time's up for patting ourselves on the back, because we are not free of discrimination, and we may never be, because perceiving difference is a key part of our self-preservation. It triggers the actual fight or flight response. So we need to take a page from the Chinese, who use the same character to represent both disaster and its mirror image opportunity, and work hard to adjust our initial reactions. And not just because it's a nice thing to do. The speed and quality with which we can get newcomers positively engaged in their community and the economy establishes the break-even point for our value proposition. This is the most important key to transforming city building from a giant tax burden to a revenue-producing industry with explosive growth. I believe that the starting point actually is very simple. It costs nothing. Everyone here can play a positive role, because once a newcomer has a roof over their head, food and warmth, they ache to be acknowledged as part of the Ontario family, to be greeted with an honest good morning, and be included in the giving and receiving of simple daily acts of kindness that say you belong. Of course, after that, there needs to be a very meaty program with a continuing improvement process to deliver that level playing field that will play such a huge role in everyone's perception of fairness and opportunity and drive their motivation. So, quick recap to the missing elements. We need to craft a measured approach and process to ensure that our public-private infrastructure projects are equally attractive to business, governments, and the general public. Ensuring that each new project generates wealth instead of consuming it, reducing ongoing tax burdens while growing the economy. To generate intergovernmental cooperation, we need to establish city and community building as the surest path to successful solution of their top 10 problems, and of course, to re-election. We need to build the next generation of globally competitive Ontarians from people who come to us from faraway places with different languages and cultures, quickly and effectively. So to start, let's take a page out of Waterloo's successful Velocity initiative. Now, Velocity started as a regular series of contests, much like this one, for any combination of Waterloo students to present ideas for new high-tech products. The winning teams were modestly funded to produce a beta version. The presentation of beta versions produced winners who won a combination of support and mentoring that provided incorporation, housing with other entrepreneurs on campus and in offices off campus at Communitech, Mars equivalent in the KW area, the local business incubator, and mentoring all the way to funding in New York and Silicon Valley. All levels of government and some corporations are Velocity partners and enablers. The Velocity initiative has now been taken to the next step, and if you looked it up, you would see a new program at Waterloo called Velocity Science. So far, this has produced 175 companies in a very short span of time. The collaboration of Communitech, the university, industry, and government also serves a second critically important purpose. It ensures that Canadian inventions are developed in Canada by Canadians. Long-term employment and wealth creation from Canadian inventions are the end results. It's hard work. This integrated teamwork, however, in Toronto with the University of Toronto and Mars, has combined to build the GTA, which includes KW, into the 5th largest high-tech city in the world, next to Austin, San Francisco, New York, and London. So we launch our own Velocity program to bridge the missing elements, linking our best and brightest to real-world challenges from the get-go to transform huge and ongoing infrastructural needs into an economic tour de force. How ironic is this? While our great southern neighbor is looking in the rearview mirror to rediscover former greatness, limiting their annual immigration to 50,000 and building new Great Walls of China to enforce it, Ontario will be delivering fabulous new, futuristic, green city after city, refurbishing our existing cities with new hub infrastructure, generating millions of new, high-quality jobs, integrating and including our rural communities, attracting new corporations, reducing future debt burdens, and building high-performing, caring, well-educated young communities to pass the torch to simply by being Canadian, by embracing global change with a vision of tolerance, innovation, and organized hard work, and by giving peace a chance. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and good evening.